is the sound of redemption. This is the way that we bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. Igniting the fire within you. Exalting the melody of freedom. These are the things that will bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. So gather the faithful. Tell everyone to stand and shout loud. Shout loud. Shout loud. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Down, down, down.
Let me tell you, it's in the air. Joy is in the air. Love is in the air. Can you feel it? What it feel like? Freedom. What it feel like? Don't sleep on it, brother. You might get left, sister. Can you feel it? What it feel like? Freedom. What it feel like? Justice. No need to be counted, cause I am down. Down, down, down. Down, down, down. Down for the end of racism, for the end of bigotry, cause I am down. For the end of misogyny, that's right. For all the isms out there, just down, down, down. Let's bring it down. Rise up, people. No more foolishness, and let's bring it way down.
Riding the river of change into the cries of contrition. This is the way that we bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. We are the children of Eden, dancing and celebrating freedom. We are the ones that must bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. So gather the faithful. Tell everyone to stand and shout loud. Shout loud. Shout loud. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. We've got to bring it down. Down. Stand up and shout. Stand up and shout. Rise together.
Accountability starts now. The Eric Dawson Radio Show.
Yeah. Rise up. Stand up, shouting loud.
If you are not prepared to come to that table and to represent that voice, don't come. Because we don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice. We don't need black faces that don't want to be a black voice. We don't need Muslims that don't want to be a Muslim voice. We don't need queers that don't want to be a queer voice. And if you're worried about being marginalized and stereotyped, please don't even show up.
There's only one way to be independent. something that someone gives to you. It's something that you take. Nobody can give you independence. Nobody can give you freedom. Nobody can give you equality or justice or anything. If you're a man, you take it. If you can't take it, you don't deserve it. Nobody can give it to you. I'm for anybody who's for freedom. I'm for anybody who's for justice. I'm for anybody who's for equality. I'm not for anybody who tells me to sit around and wait for mine.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Eric Dawson Radio Show. I got my man Vincent Squire from Camden County. What's going on, Vincent?
Hey, Brother Dawson. Ooh, hot night tonight, huh?
Hey, Vincent, man, listen. Well, look, housekeeping first. I know people are tuning in. They want to hear my view on last night. They want to weigh in, and hopefully you guys will call in. But Vincent, before we get into it, please introduce yourself to everybody, certainly the people who are new to the show. Let them know who you are and your candidacy.
Well, hello, New Jersey. I'm Vincent Squire. I am from Camden County. I am running for United States Senate. I'll be taking on the incumbent Cory Booker. Now, I do understand that a lot of people have a great deal of affection for Cory Booker, but what I want to do is pose this question to you. If you are tired of pollution in our state, if you are tired of our seniors trying to decide between which to buy, medication or food, if you're tired of our failing school systems continuing to fail and potholes all up and down our roads, if you are tired of not getting back federal money because your senator does not bring it to the table, if you are tired of high taxes, then it's time that you change your vote and vote for me.
There we go. So listen, and so you guys also know that I am running for Congress in the 10th Congressional District. I'm running against Donald M. Payne Jr. And I'm running against him because he is silent. This guy is silent when it comes to all of the issues that impact foundational Black Americans. And so if you didn't know, I'm having my kickoff. It's going to be March 14th. It's going to be at in Montclair, 300 Bloomfield Avenue at the DLV Lounge. You guys are welcome. I hope to see you there, Vincent. It's going to be great festivities, guys. Come. We're going to have a great time. Oh, listen, before I get started, too, I'm going to be posting. I've been asked to do a series of panels. Hey, Vincent, I didn't realize, man, that people are listening. Anyway, I've been asked to do a series of panel discussions. So you guys are going to see on my page that I'm going to be posting. So there's some people who have some very influential blogs and vlogs and podcasts and such. And they literally, I don't know who reached out to them and told them about the Eric Dawson Radio Show. But I've been speaking to them. They said they've gone back into our archives of almost 4 years. They're very impressed with the Inform class and what we're doing here, and they want to help us grow. So it's going to be a fantastic thing. Listen, 2020 for us is going to be incredible. So anyway, without further ado, I know people want to know, and I saw it and said, well, what happened to Bernie? Bernie was supposed to blah, blah, blah. Bernie didn't blah, blah, blah. Listen, here's the deal, guys. It's a chess match, right? It's a 15-round heavyweight fight, right? Look, the truth is, what did Mike Tyson say? He said everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right? But the question is, once you get punched, can you adjust, right? And so certainly, I believe that once all of the numbers are counted out of California, Bernie Sanders will have more delegates than Biden will. Now, here is the thing that folks are forgetting. And then I want you to weigh in on this too, Vincent. Here's the thing that folks are forgetting. You've got this movement And I don't want to just say this movement. Let's be clear about what movement we're talking about. We're talking about the Poor People's Campaign, the continuation of what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. started and was ultimately murdered for. That's what we're fighting right now. And you have everybody. You have the entire establishment. You have the entire corporate world against those people who are fighting for their freedom, fighting for their rights, fighting for some equitability here in America. And so with $18 an average, $18, $18.50, we've waged war against everybody to tear down the entire system. And not to see that, not to be in touch with it from that perspective and understand that we're still standing. We didn't go anywhere. Did we go anywhere, Vincent?
No, we're still here.
We're still here. And viable. Not only are we here, but we're viable. But what has happened in this particular round of the fight is we found out who some more Negro whisperers are. We found out who some more slave catchers are. We found some more barbarians within the gate. And we'll talk about that later on the show. But what is your perspective on it, Vincent? And then I'll continue to weigh in.
Well, we listened to all day the analysts talk about the movement of the Bernie Sanders camp. And don't get me wrong, Bernie Sanders has a lot of people at his rallies. He's got youth, he's got, a very mixed group. However, what Bernie Sanders was not prepared for was the old guard pushing back. And that's what it was. Finally, Biden came back and started winning based on, I guess, that time last week when he went to the woodshed with Clyburn, he spanked his behind and said, look, you were part of the most successful administration in America, and you're not going to use that?
Right.
So now Biden came back being pro-Obama, which he was a part of because he was silent in the beginning of his campaign, and now look what's happening. I mean, not only, and people just thought that, okay, well, Biden's going to get the black vote. Well, they were wrong. Because the blacks are not the majority in voting population in Maine.
Right. Well, so, look, what we saw, and they talk about momentum, right? And we talked about it when we started in Iowa and what was happening in Iowa with them delaying the count coming out of Iowa and the belief that they were trying to stunt a bump that Bernie Sanders might get and additional monies that he might get to carry him to New Hampshire and then to Nevada and then moving forward, right? So campaigns are about momentum. And if you don't have it, it hinders your campaign. If you have it, it accelerates your campaign. And one team is trying to stunt the momentum of the other and vice versa. So that is the chess match that is going on. And so as they got to, and the other thing was the idea of getting Biden to South Carolina, where there was a hope that black folk, older black folk, would do what they historically have done, which is vote against their best interests, right? And if the Willie Lynch letter was still active there, then the Democratic establishment believed that they would be able to propel this white moderate that Martin warned us against forward. And so Clyburn, fish fry Clyburn, the consummate slave catcher and Negro whisperer that he is, all right, he did his job, and he did it well, so he must be commended for being one of the best slave catchers in 2020. Beyond that, Biden was able to then, based on that win, right? I mean, because this is just what happened and you guys saw it. Based on that win, they were able to negotiate with both Buttigieg and with Amy Klobuchar and get them to drop out of race. So whatever deal they cut, right, for whatever you believed or ever believed that Buttigieg, and I told you he was the devil, Right? Listen, I told you more than 6 months ago that he was the devil, right? And he came out and said that he was progressive and he was all of these things, right? And we saw it, right? So as more conscious black folk were pressing him and looking at his record in South Bend and how he treated black folk, right? We understood that he had nothing for us. And he never did. And so now you see him fold right into Biden, right? And so we were having this conversation about this guy, Biden, who was the grandfather of the crime bill, who was the guy who cohorted with segregationists. Now we see the guy in South Bend, Indiana, who treated black folks the way he did. He's now locked arms with that guy. Now, Amy Klobuchar, see, look at it, guys, who we talked about what her record as a prosecutor was toward black folk, right? We now see her aligned with this guy. Let us be clear. And so when I see black folks on social media, right, talking about how Biden did it, I'm saying, have you all lost your minds? Do you see what's going on? Do you see how they're circling the wagons against black folk right now? Do you see it? So the only difference, because I'll tell you, nothing has fundamentally or transformatively changed since the murder of Martin Luther King for black people. Democrat, Republican, I don't care who was in the White House, right? We talked about this too, right? They just made you feel better. Democrats just made you feel better as they were screwing you. Now, Republicans are just more straightforward with it. But Democrats just made you feel better. So you just want to go back to feeling better. You don't want to be cured. You just want to feel better. That is the issue. So now...
So you're saying the Republicans were just a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, and the Democrats gave you dinner and a movie?
Yeah, no. The Democrats give you dinner and a movie.
Yes.
Yeah, the Democrats give you dinner and a movie. The Republicans, man, you got to sneak your own condiments into the theater. But what we see is this, and it's a very easy technique. You know, what happens is that, you know, the media has been pressing the black vote, the black vote, the black vote. That's when, and when you call it the Willie Lynch, it's what Willie Lynch letters is. It's a modern day or an updated version of The Prince by Machiavelli. Yeah.
And it's true to form. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So the Joe Biden back in the 50s, who was was against the radical change of socialism or the followings of Dr. King, now realized that the people who were his enemies, for him to get elected, had to be his friend. And it started, and now it is moving forward. You know, what they do is they get, as you call them, the Negro whisperers. Those are the white people who, as my mother used to say, they got that black scent happening. You know, black scent is a white man who sounds black. Like if you ever talk to Justin Timberlake, you hear that black scent.
Sure.
So what they've been doing is basically rallying the troops. And of course, if you look at the technique of the greatest warrior of that time, what he did was those who were conquered and oppressed, he grouped them all together. So conquered and oppressed is a very low number, but bringing in more of them, now you have a formidable army. Yeah. So that's what has been going on in this chess match of politics. In the meantime, you know, Bernie Sanders has been showing some consistency. Now, they have just been doing the whispering in terms of kitchen table issues. Bernie has been making positive changes and talking about true transformation of our society with social initiatives. There's no way in the world that the richest country in the world should be the most polluted country in the world. There is no way in the world that all your federal money that goes to subsidize colleges that we should not have, if not free, then extremely reduced higher education for our children. There is no way in the world that a company can do $30 billion and pay $0 taxes when my secretary, and I'm not going to tell how much she makes, pays roughly 36% of her income to taxes.
Wait a minute. I got to stop. And I hope my brother is tuned into the show because I told him I was going to talk about it. I hope my brother, and he knows I love him. I hope my brother Shavar Jeffries is tuned into the show.
Oh, God.
See, listen, man. Listen.
Okay.
I hope he's tuned in, and if he's not, somebody please tag him and tell him to call in, because I got a comment on this. So, because he just responded to something that I wrote. So here's what Shavar says. He posted this about an hour ago. He said he just read this, and he thinks much of it rings true. He said, there's a wave of people who are tired of listening to people shouting at them. There is a definite burnout. Those factors need to be taken into consideration. Trump shouts, Bernie shouts, we need to have some peace for a while. We are exhausted. Listen. And what I responded to him with was I said, look, Malcolm shouted, Martin shouted. We were told that to be black and conscious in America is to be in a constant state of rage. And so the idea of saying that we should be calm as we're brutalized, to say that we should be calm as we're subjugated, to say that we should be calm while we're at war, I don't understand that. That doesn't make sense to me. And so I'm looking for the actual response to, because he then responded to my response, and when I find it, he says to me, Eric Dawson, Malcolm and Martin both shouted, but they also knew when it was time to smile and tell a joke. I'm not trying to buck dance. I want you to understand this for a second. Wait a minute. So in the middle of me being brutalized, in the middle of me understanding how they're socially engineering our children to prisons, for me to look and see how our neighborhoods have been ravaged, you want me to smile and dance? No. I mean, see, here lies the challenge. See, if we understand, and that's why James Baldwin said, when you are black and conscious, you're in a constant state of rage. He didn't say that you're temporarily enraged. He said you are in a constant state of rage. There's no time to dance and smile. Are you kidding me? All of those kids who have been driven into those schools today are being miseducated. Today. I don't have time to smile and dance. See, and this is what I'm saying. We have to know thyself. See, Martin said, beware of the moderate. See, because once you become enraged, once you wake up, they want to slip you that blue pill. They want to put you back to sleep. They say, no, you can't be enraged. You shouldn't. And then they'll demonize you for being enraged. Oh, you shout too much.
Well, obviously, this brother has never been to a black church.
Well,
because if you go to a black church, there's going to be some shouting.
How they do?
If the man is preaching the word that is touching your heart,
come on now,
telling you to move forward,
come on now,
there's going to be some shouting.
Come on now.
There's going to be a level of release, and the preacher has to shout because he got to shout all over the people who are shouting back.
Well,
they had that brother down. They said, brother, you might as well go on and curse your God and die. But my God, well, come on now.
Woo!
Come on. Have you ever been in a bar and they just had a civil conversation talking about sports?
Listen, man.
I mean, come on. The problem, or one of the biggest things about being a man of color is that you have no problem in expressing a level of passion. And yes, there are certain parts of what he said I do agree with, because in public speaking, they teach about tone, reflection, and one of the things that they do say is that you can't consistently be Eric Dawson and always throwing body blows. Every now and then you got to stick and move. So part of stick and moving is this. When you are loading people with a great deal of information and it is touching their heart, there are emotions that are going. And there are two things that can happen. Either people will cry and other people will feel bad, or people will laugh, take the message in, digest it, and move forward. So that's one thing that's actually technique. But other than that, I mean, it's like, you know, when I'm out and I'm campaigning. In fact, I was at the DMV talking to you over the phone. I was so passionate in our conversations that there started to be the group that went from the line and started circling around me hearing your show. Because we were both involved in a passionate conversation. And that engages people. That gives you traction. With traction, you have movement. With movement, you have motivation. With motivation, you have something that is what begins to be unstoppable. And that's what we need. We need people to get impassionate about what's going on. We can't sit there and lie dead, dormant, and totally disconnected to what's going on in our society. We can't sit up there, and that's one of the biggest reasons we have this problem, especially North and South Jersey and the impoverished areas, is that the people are silent. They're silent while they have failing school systems, yet they continue to elect a school board that does nothing. They are silent when they drink polluted water, causing permanent brain damage because the people are silent. They are silent when they have to pay their taxes, and when they can't pay their taxes, get their houses foreclosed on because the people are silent. Why don't you guys stop being silent, grab some backbone, a little level of passion, and get out and stand up for yourself?
Wait a minute, Vincent, you shouting?
Oh, am I?
Vincent, don't shout. Hey, Vincent, say it.
Yes.
Say it calmly.
Okay.
Say it calmly.
I'm sorry.
Listen, man.
I'm sorry. Well, what I believe that you people need to do is to get a level of backbone and some intestinal fortitude, and then go and talk to your local politicians. And then after that, demand to them that they stand accountable for all their promises and get what you actually deserve. You deserve a better quality of life. And if you vote for me, I'll make sure that you get it.
Listen, man. You know, look. We are at war. It is us against them. And what I'll say to you guys again is this: anybody who you first have to, for me to even comprehend where you're coming from. After we just came out of Black History Month, we just celebrated Martin, we just talked about Malcolm, right? And now here we are in the midst of trying to figure this whole thing out, trying to understand how we in a capitalistic system, the greatest, as they say, country on earth, right? Most powerful country on earth, wealthiest country on earth, have so many poor folk, have so many struggling folk. And to believe that the guy who you all are backing or supporting, who is also being backed by the industries who are directly responsible for lobbyists being in Washington, setting policies that have us in the current condition that we're in, that it's going to change. Biden said to you, said to us, said to the folks on Wall Street, he said, if you elect me, nothing is going to fundamentally change. Nothing. So I'm saying, and you know, when I read these comments and they say, well, you know, one of the other comments that came from Brother Jeffries was, you know, Bernie needs to learn how to compromise, and they need to. I said, look, you know, you had Martin murdered because he wasn't compromising. You had Malcolm murdered because he wasn't compromising. Listen, Sister Ayanna Pressley said, if you don't have the backbone to come to the fight, if you're so concerned about being marginalized or called a name, then just stay home. Just stay home. We don't need you in the fight. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's a fight. But to constantly say, well, I'm concerned about how somebody's going to what somebody's going to think about me, how somebody's going to try to marginalize me, some name somebody's going to call me. So I got to compromise. I got to be somebody else. That is part, if not the entire reason why our politics are the way that our politics are. Look, one of the reasons, like it or not, that Donald Trump was elected by that group of people who they said he could murder somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue or shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and they would still vote for him, is because he was uncompromising. He said what came out of what he was thinking. He spoke it. We called him all these names, tried to corral him and bring him back into, what we believe ought to be civil politics. But that's not what folks wanted. They wanted their truth to be spoken, whether we like it or not. And those people voted for him. And I'm saying to you that there's a group of people. You can continue to ignore them if you want, and then you can blame them in 2020 when Donald Trump wins again, because you're going to want these people who have raw feelings about how they're being mistreated in America. You want them to be calm. You want them not to shout. You want them to hide their pain. You want them to wait another minute. They're not waiting anymore. And so, so the idea is this. Anyway, back to yesterday. We're going to the convention. That's what's going to happen. I don't think anybody's going to have the requisite number of delegates, right? And I think the other person who I told you guys about 3 weeks ago or so, maybe 4 weeks, I said that Elizabeth Warren had moved into the devil category for me, right? Because I had heard that she had started taking money from some PACs and done some other things. Well, the only reason that Elizabeth Warren is still in the race is to siphon votes from Bernie Sanders.
True.
Let's be clear. Let us be clear about that.
If you look at the votes that Warren had, speaking the same principles and concepts or campaign promises as Sanders, the votes that she has gotten could have went to Bernie, and it would have been a total different outcome. Totally different.
Yeah.
But instead of her, saying that, okay, we are dividing this and possibly the wrong person could win, she's saying that, no, I still have a chance and I'm going to continue running.
Right. Well, she's going to continue running because, look, we're playing chess right now, right? So they're developing pieces. Bernie's trying to develop pieces. And understand this too, guys. And it was masterful. And it took me a minute to see it. I didn't see it right away. Much like when you watch a good chess match, Vincent, you see a move, you don't really understand it, and then it reveals itself later and you say, oh, wow, right? So Bernie understood that in order for him to be viable moving past Super Tuesday, he had to secure California. He had to secure California because California had the most delegates. Now, if you look, he was shocked, and so was I, that Texas didn't go his way. Had Texas and California both gone his way, it'd be different. We'd be having a different conversation.
That has the bulk of the delegates. Texas and California has the bulk of the delegates in the Super Tuesday primary.
Right. And so he was looking at Texas and he was looking at California, right? He knew he was going to get Vermont. He looked at some of this, but Texas and California. I didn't see Beto coming back and supporting Biden. I didn't see that. I got to be honest with you. To me, that came out of left field. But when Beto came out and he supported him, that is the thing that closed that gap and pushed Biden over the edge in Texas. But California, he fortified his position there. He's going to win California. I believe he's going to get the bulk of those delegates. But again, understand what the goal was of the establishment. It was to spread the field out, right? So between Warren and we're going to talk about Bloomberg in a minute. I look, dude spent $500 million. But anyway. He spent $500 million. But
yes.
But anyway, so
$500 million of Bloomberg is the spare change that you put on your night table. Come on, he's got the money. But let's look at the race. Biden won states that he never stepped a foot in the campaign, including Elizabeth Warren's state. I mean, really, if she loses her own state, that should be a hit and a half. It's time for you to get out the race.
Wait a minute. Do you remember that Al Gore lost his own state? Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
So listen, they're hoping now that they can share in delegates in California to kind of to stunt the momentum of Bernie Sanders. See, because
Correct.
Understand this: if Bernie Sanders gets enough delegates in California for them to have to post on the front page of the New York Times that Bernie Sanders is the front runner, right? Because if he has the most delegates, you then have to call him the front runner again. And they don't want to do that. That will energize his base. That will bring more money in. That will give his campaign momentum. And they were hoping so. They were on several fronts trying to stunt the momentum of Bernie Sanders. First in Iowa, then in South Carolina, and next in California. So we'll see how we do in California, and then we'll press forward. But there's still more work to be done. Listen, this is only round 3. We got 15 more rounds to go. Got 15 more rounds to go. And I gotta say this last thing, and understand this too. We got down ballot stuff that we're working on. So not only are we throwing headshots over here on the progressive side, we also throwing body blows. And those body blows are those down ballots.
That's right.
There we go.
Go ahead, baby.
So we can,
Take it move there. Go on, baby.
Listen, we're hitting the head of the ticket and we're hitting the body too. So
there you go. But what we have to look at is that, like you said, or as they say, this isn't a sprint. This is a marathon.
It is a marathon.
And it's very calculated. So what you have to do is continue to fight. You never let one setback in one round deter you from the entire fight. You know what you do, or as Mike Tyson said, everybody got a plan till you get hit in the mouth. Okay, so now you got hit in the mouth. So now you know how to use the head. So you have to keep going, and that's the whole thing. What we deal with as a people is sometimes when they start to see the tide shift, they go right on the other side.
Yeah. So now let's talk about Bloomberg for a second. So Bloomberg spent about $500 million. Wait, can I say it like the guy on whatever that movie was, Austin Powers? $500 million. Listen, I gotta tell you, man. Look. Listen. Look. All those black people took that money. They took that money, man. And he gave it to him. They bought him, and they tried to deliver for him, and folks just weren't buying what they were selling, right? But here is the thing about what Bloomberg has set up. Bloomberg has an infrastructure that he literally could just roll over to Biden now. So understand this. That Bloomberg wasn't operating in the early states. Now, he said he wasn't operating because he got in too late. He had enough money if he wanted to in those states, right? He could have done a tremendous, he could have put $1 billion in. That still would have been a drop in the bucket. He's worth $58 billion, right? So he could have gone into those early states. He could have gone into Iowa. He could have gone into New Hampshire, and he could have gone into Nevada. And he could have put $1 billion into each of those states if he wanted to. Could have done that. Right. He chose not to because my belief, right, is that his goal was to ensure that a white moderate was going to be the figurehead for the party he purchased, right? And when he saw that white moderate wasn't holding it down. He stepped in. He said, well, okay, that over there, those early states, you go ahead and do that. I'm going to lay the groundwork. So if you don't make it out of here, I can take the baton and I could run it to the finish line. After South Carolina, see, because you can't, and this is what I'm going to say to you. If you don't believe now that a lot of the jousting on the stage is just theatrics, well, look at it. You saw Amy Klobuchar, right, when you said, ooh, she said to Buttigieg, did you call me a liar? But now you saw them hugging, right? You saw them going after Biden, but now you see him hugging. You saw all of them at each other's throats, but now you see him hugging. So I'm telling you that Bloomberg and Biden are hugging, right? They're hugging. Forget about the headlines that you see. They are hugging. And they are strategizing about how to get to the finish line together. And so now that Biden has this momentum, I believe that Mini Mike is going to just transfer his infrastructure to Biden. Because that's all he's got to do. All he's got to do is go into all of those headquarters that he has open, take down the Mike signs and put up the Biden signs. That's all he's got to do. He's got the staff. He's got the headquarters. He's got the data. He's got all of that. All he's got to do is turn it over to Biden, right? So I believe that's what he's going to do because Biden now has momentum, has life in his campaign. Poor Mike, the return on his investment in terms of his personal gain in terms of delegates and votes and those kinds of things was abysmal. But that really wasn't it, right? Again, if you're playing chess, the end game is mate, right? It's not saving your pawn or your rook or your knight or your bishop or your queen. You'll sacrifice them all if you can get mate. And so Mike Bloomberg is trying to get mate. And so he'll sacrifice himself to get mate. Let's be clear about that. So people with pundits were saying, well, do you think Mike's going to get out? Of course he will. Of course he will. Because it's not about him. It's about mate. It's about checkmate. So he'll be out. He'll transfer that entire infrastructure over to Biden. And then it'll be the rumble in the jungle. Then you'll have the white moderate versus the white progressive. Going down to the finish line. And then you'll still have Warren in the race. Huh?
The white moderate and the white progressive supported by the black vote.
Supported by the black vote. And you'll still have you'll still have Elizabeth Warren in there biting at Bernie's ankles, right?
Elizabeth Warren was effective for one thing. She neutralized Bloomfield. Bottom line. And one thing about Bloomfield that I still haven't been able to...
Bloomberg?
I'm sorry.
That's
Bloomberg.
Okay. That's okay.
Yeah. One thing about Bloomberg that I haven't been able to wrap my head around is this. Billionaires or people with money, when they spend money, especially that level of money, even though for him it's pocket change, they do it with the intent of a return. Right. So, when someone spends that kind of money, what's in it for them? And what are they looking to do?
Wait a minute.
Oh,
somebody just texted. I got breaking news. Wait. You know, whoa. I got a breaking news thing. Ready? Here we go. Watch this.
There's only one way to be independent.
That's my breaking news thing. Now I didn't want Malcolm to come on, but I did want my breaking news. Bloomberg's dropping out. Damn! Come on now. You don't need MSNBC. You don't need Fox. You don't need CNN. Come on.
All you gotta do is tune in 10 a.m. to the Eric Dawson show. His predictions, you're what, 99% accurate now?
Hey, listen, I am. Go back and look. Go back and look at the accuracy here on this show. Go back and look at the accuracy. Mm-hmm. So Bloomberg is dropping out and backing Biden now. Damn.
Well, hell did
You know what?
just
Wait,
talk
wait,
about
wait,
that?
Vincent.
Hey, 15 minutes ago.
Vincent?
15 minutes ago.
Vincent,
Yes.
I'm gonna take a commercial break because I need to I need to gather myself now.
Oh, you mean take a victory lap?
I need to take a victory lap. We'll be right back after this commercial break, guys.
Do you have loss prevention or safety concerns? Black Belt Security and Investigations has armed and unarmed guards that can protect what is important to you. For security you can count on, visit www.bbsillc.com or call 1-800-493-1859 today.
It's time to turn up the heat in your house or apartment. So here are some fire safety tips from Diane L. Murray Insurance Agency to keep you warm and safe this winter. Don't overload your electrical outlets. Keep flammable items away from fireplaces and space heaters. And put a fresh battery in your smoke detector. Turn to Diane L. Murray Insurance Agency for your home and renter's insurance or bundle it with your auto insurance and save. Call 908-686-4609 or visit dlminsurance.com today.
BBSI. BBSI.
I cut off the BBSI commercial because I was so excited to get back to talk about Bloomberg. So, listen, let me see if I can pull up, because one of our informed listeners sent that to me, and I thank you so very much for it.
What's the source point of the news?
Huh?
Who's the source?
Vice News. Headline, Bloomberg is dropping out of the race and backing Biden. He spent more than $500 million of his own funds and won the U.S. territory of American Samoa. I also heard he won Wakanda. I knew that was going to take you a second. Hey, listen, Wakanda forever. Forever.
Wakanda.
It says the New York City Mayor Mike Bloomberg's incredibly expensive and incredibly fruitless presidential primary campaign has come to an end. After investing more than $500 million in his bid for Democratic nod and winning exactly one primary, American Samoa, Bloomberg called it quits. Right? I'm a believer in using data to inform decisions. Well, wait a minute. If he was using data to inform decisions, he didn't realize. Wait a minute. The data should have suggested to him that he didn't have a chance. Wait, so when did he start looking at the data? Right? He says after yesterday's results, the delegate math has become virtually impossible. Wait a minute, but you didn't look. Look, Mike. I mean, this is $500 million too late. But you should have known. You just should have known, right? So he says, and a viable path to the nomination no longer exists. Bloomberg said in a statement, but I remain clear-eyed about my overriding objective. What'd I tell you? He said, I remain clear-eyed about my overriding objective, which is to do what? Checkmate. Right? He will sacrifice himself. That's what I said. For the end game. The end game is made. So he says, but I remain clear-eyed about my overriding objective, victory in November. Not for me, but for the country. It's for you, Mike. It's for you.
Yes.
It's for you.
NBC News confirmed 24 minutes ago.
And so while I will not be the nominee, I will not walk away from the most important political fight of my life, he continued. I've always believed that defeating Donald Trump starts with uniting behind the candidate with the best shot to do that. After yesterday's vote, it is clear that candidate is my friend and a great American, Joe Biden. Right. So now, Liz. Liz.
It's time that somebody pulls Elizabeth Warren over and have a come to Jesus moment with her and get in line or get the party in line.
But listen, but what they're gonna do, understand what they're gonna do, because they believe that the voter is so unsophisticated, right? They're gonna leave Elizabeth Warren in. They're gonna leave her in a little bit longer. Because she's siphoning off. See, look, once you move Elizabeth Warren out of the race, right? Then the lanes are clear. The lanes are very clear. Then it's this movement, this poor people's campaign, or it's the billionaire lane. The poor people campaign, the billionaire lane. When you got Elizabeth Warren in there, right, then it muddies it up on the progressive side with the poor people's campaign. So they'll keep funding you're gonna see this woman, she did miserably, but you're gonna see her fundraising numbers go up. Call it go.
Yeah. The only one who did worse than her was Bloomberg.
Say, caller.
Hey guys, this is Sydney. How you guys doing today?
Hey, Sid.
Hey, how we doing?
Good. I might be Johnny come lately, but I just wanted to ask you guys this because I happened to read this the other day. Many people are leaning towards Bernie Sanders. But I read something, and maybe I'm just a little bit more slow or illiterate than the rest, or maybe I'm just as smart as the others. But he said that he's going to raise the taxes on the middle class to pay for the plans that he has in place, or some of the plans he has in place. And they said the middle class is considered, $50,000 above, whatever, but we can't afford to pay any more taxes than what we have. But like I said, I'm just learning. I don't know. Maybe you guys can chime in on this,
right?
If you haven't already.
No, that's a misconception. Bernie Sanders' plan isn't against the middle class. Donald Trump's plan was against the middle class. Bernie Sanders' plan is against the upper class. That's 1 to 7% of Americans that have roughly 89% of America's wealth. Now,
that's not what he said. That's not what he said.
No. So let me be very clear, Sid. So I'm going to try to do it like this. Yes, the taxes are going to go up, right? But let's say, because this is true. It was true for me, at least, when I had Obamacare. So let's say I'm paying, $5,000 a year in taxes, right? And let's say I was paying through my premium another $15,000 a year. So my total outlay now is 20, right? 5,000 taxes, 15,000 premium. And let's say my co-pays were another $10,000. So 5,000, 15, and 10, right? So that's $30,000. I think my math is right? So let's say I'm paying $30,000.
Your math is correct.
So I was paying $5,000 in taxes, and I was paying all of that. Now Bernie's saying your taxes are going to go up from $5,000 to $10,000, but you're not going to have any premiums and you're not going to have any co-pays. So let's say my taxes go up from $5,000 to $10,000. So now at the end of the year, I'm paying $10,000 instead of $30,000. So the taxes went up, but everything else got moved off the table. Do you understand what I'm saying? So they weren't clear. So they are being misleading when they're explaining this to people. So yes, your taxes are going to go up, but all of that other money that you're paying in terms of co-pays, in terms of premiums, you're not going to have those expenses anymore. And so overall, you're going to be paying less.
So what he's doing is that you're not paying out of pocket, but what you will be paying is out of revenue. You know, so your taxes will go up 2.5% to 4%, versus you paying, you know, another $15,000 to $18,000 out of pocket.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Okay. No, I think that's what I'm saying. I think it's clear for everyone to have an understanding. If it's you explaining it and others explaining it, because you know the American people really can't afford to be taxed anymore on top of what we have. And then another thing I've always said about tax, and something I've always said about taxes is like, what the hell are we paying taxes for? I don't understand. Half the times I don't even understand why we're paying so much taxes for what, right? When we spend 80% of our time complaining and trying to find the people to put in positions to correct things. So where do we pay taxes? But I'm glad you guys were able to at least give me something to think about on that.
And I hope you guys all understand that that's what he's talking about. You know, so when people say, "Oh, your taxes are going to go up," you know, it's going to crush the middle class. It's not what we're talking about here.
It's not, because you're still saving $15,000 to $20,000, which gives you a better quality of life. Yeah. Oh, by the way, the institution of taxes started by President Taft. The ability of taking a small percentage from a great deal of people called Americans, or an even scale, so that you can actually help assist in the funding of the American government. So now, the problem that we have with taxes is that it has now become unbalanced. We have too many people who make so much money who don't pay their fair share. We have people who make billions of dollars and they pay 1% in taxes. We have people who make hundreds of thousands of dollars and they're paying 28% in taxes. We have people who are making under $20,000 and they're paying 34% of taxes. Do you see the disparity?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sure. No. I understand, you know, everything. I just want to make sure, as I always say, when I call, I don't speak for myself. I speak for all those who don't get a chance to ask the question, who think of the question, but need to know. So that's good when you throw out all types of answers for people to be able to say, okay, this is good, this is bad. Now I have better understanding.
Right, and in the media, it's called the representative multiplier. For every person, for everything that you say, there's a multiplier that says there are at least 1,000 people that think the same way. Right. So you never discard as it just being one person. You discard it as one person representing a larger number.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when you come and you bring us questions, and you know we're able to enlighten you in terms of sifting through the media BS from what's true, that's 1,000 people who have now gotten a solid message, who can make an informed decision of the best person that they need to put in the White House, or the best person that they need to make as their senator of New Jersey, or the best person they can sit to the to a level of Congress,
Yeah. No. I think it just makes, like I said, it just makes it clear for people to understand, because we're heading down now to the wire, and I think that people have spoken. I think Eric had spoke about this the other day, that we've got a revolution going on, and people are tired. But all that sounds good, right? Until we get to the election, they don't come out. It doesn't mean anything. And
but you know what though? But here's what I'm gonna say. And look, I'm not surprised at what's going on, and and I want black folk in particular, as well as white folks who are on the battlefield helping fight for the justice of foundational black Americans. For all the celebrating that folks did yesterday regarding the establishment working to put down the resistance, all that happened was, again, the assassination of the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. That's all that happened. See, I want you to look at it. You tell me that side that you're cheering about, that you say won, nothing that they're promoting, nothing is in alignment with what Dr. King fought and was ultimately murdered for. Everything that they're pushing for is what he pushed against. And so understand the deep psychoses that exist within you. That you can celebrate Dr. King and then celebrate his assassins at the same time. Understand that. Because that's what you did. That's all that happened yesterday. The continued assassination of Dr. King's legacy. That's all that occurred. And so I'm not shocked, Sydney, because just like black folks abandoned him then, I expect that there are going to be black folks that abandon him now. And then here's the thing. Folks feel emotional when I talk about the ignorance of some black people when they go out and vote. But these black folks who feel emotional and are caught in their feelings because I say that they're ignorant are the same ones who are saying white folks were ignorant for voting for Trump. Right? So wait a minute now. Let's be real. Yeah, there's some people on both sides who are voting against their interests. Don't believe that you're above being ignorant. And so all of those folks who were caping for whatever they were caping for in South Carolina and all these other states, and they're going around just herding Negroes up. Yeah, they're no different than those people who you were talking about who were supporting Trump. They just look like you. So you're emotional about it when I talk about them. Get over it.
Yes. Well, what we have is and you're very true on that. When you, I'm sure you've experienced this when you talk about in your campaign, and I've experienced this a lot, as well as a lot of other people, is when you're taking on the incumbent, what you're doing is taking on an actual tribe. There are people who love and support them, no matter the simple fact that they've done nothing for them. I mean, I have people who said, "Well, I'm going to vote for him, and I've always voted for him." And I said, "Okay, I understand that, and I respect your decision to choose whoever you think is best. But express to me, what has he done for you?" And I get a wall of silence. So when you do that and you don't know what this person has done for you, then why are you voting for them? Why are you honoring him with your vote and he honors you with nothing?
Yeah.
People sit up here and complain about the situation that they're in and not understanding that they're the cause of the situation that they're
in. Well, so look, I'm going to tell you this. And I believe this. I believe that the Poor People's Campaign has the best shot at beating Donald Trump. I do not believe that asking people who are in pain to just hold on one more again is going to get it done. It's not going to get it done. And then to tell those people who are in pain that is their fault. I mean, that's almost like the rape victim. You telling them it's their fault. You should have wore something different. You should have been, no. It's not.
You shouldn't have been in that neighborhood.
You should have been in that no.
Mm-hmm.
No. So these folks who are trying to extricate themselves from their current situation, who are fighting like hell to do so, and you say to them, hold on one more again. And if you don't, and if you bellyache and complain about your pain, then it'll be your fault that Donald Trump got reelected. That's the narrative now. That is the narrative. But make no mistake, it is a poor people's campaign. And it is progressive. And it is bold. But it is needed. You can't talk out of one side of your neck about the failing schools, about the school-to-prison pipeline, about mass incarceration, about the filth and disparity of wealth in our community compared to that in the white community. You can't talk about all that stuff and not be bold about wanting change.
Right.
But see, this is why I say...
And it's interesting.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Vincent.
No, I'm just saying it's interesting because a lot of folks don't understand that a lot of the people who are in the Supreme Justice are soon to be 80 years old, and some of them are in the 80s now. So that's going to have to change. So if you get 4 more years of the system that we have now, you got to remember now he's going to start electing folks that, you know, really pretty much go with their agendas and however their system goes. So now we are really, no matter what we do after that, we're really stuck in a bad situation. So we have to also look at a lot of issues. Supreme Justice, you know, getting old, you know, what are we going to do? Because the Poor People's Campaign has a lot riding on this election that we're going to have. But more importantly, going all the way back when Eric first started the show, which it was all about, and this is the key word that we have to understand, is the word accountability, right? Even though you elect, it's still an accountability, because at the same time, we don't look like the people who are actually in these positions that we're electing them for in certain places. So it's about accountability and it's a unified front. When we must understand that if we don't continue the accountability, and that's all that the Eric Dawson Show has been about, accountability, what happens is that we begin to fall back to where we are, and then we complain to each other. And locally, I think nationally, federally, it's all about accountability, and I think we get away from that a lot when it's talk about. If you listen to what Brother Darren said the other day in Jersey City, it's strongly now getting back to them having people and accountability measures. And if we don't do that all throughout, then it's sad, because I hate to say we get what we get because it's not fair to everyone else, you know, but we, you know, somehow or the other, we must look and understand that it starts somewhere. Eric said the other day that it's not a healing process that is going to stop. It's going to start right now, like it's going to cure itself. It's going to be over time. But if we don't understand the things that we need to set in place right now, you know, when Eric used the metaphor about the house, you know, that's all facts, right? That's the truth. As much as you may not want to realize it, is that it is all facts. And somehow or the other, we have to find some way, you know, and I don't know how much you guys respect and like Jamal, you know, Holly, but I like his, you know, fight that he was getting on vaccinations, because I'm strongly about that, against that. But those little tiny things, we need those voices more than ever now, because, you know, the generation behind us is really going to be, you know, look what they're doing in Venezuela now. You know, Venezuela, not only for you to go to the market in Venezuela, they have to mark you now. Now you have a mark and you have a stamp. So you are now a number now, you're scanned, and then you're able to shop. You understand? So that's how that control system is. And I do believe that, you know, if you watch what's going on for coronavirus, I believe it's all a systematic process that has been put in place now, not only to bring fear, but it's to control certain systems. You know, you have a country that's 1 billion people that has, you know, go on streets where there are millions of people and there's nobody. And then people are sprayed and people are, you know, it is all a systematic process. It just doesn't happen, you know, all of a sudden this virus pops up. Oh, we're going to eliminate. No, they show the situations. I don't know if you guys know this, to where this guy says that he went into his house. They got rid of everybody. They pulled him out of his house. He was out for a day. He came back home. They have a process that when you went inside, you had to scan. You had to give you a card. You have to scan the card, and they have a digital thing on the wall. Well, they didn't make that digital thing up yesterday or when they left. They already had it. So they put it on the building. He said, "No, we're only gone a day." If I could, what are the strategies? What are the strategies that the chess match, if I could give it to what you're saying, is this? Let's start with the Supreme Court. Do you know that since accountability is one of the things that we've been saying that we need from our politicians, with them changing the Supreme Court now to a completely Republican mindset, in which if our next president gets elected, if they change the retiring Supreme Court with a completely Republican mindset, if we don't bring in the proper senators who believe in social change, if they change the Supreme Court justices to a Republican mindset, because we don't have the congressmen in place with the backbone to say that no, these ultra-conservative puppets will not work. This is what's going to happen. The rollback will be this. Accountability will be gone, because now they will legislate, and the Supreme Court justices will vote against Roe v. Wade. They will vote against affirmative action. They will vote against fair housing. They will vote against environmentally sound solutions. So there will be no more accountability for you, your health, how people will discriminate against you, how people will stop a woman's right to choose how she wants to handle a fetus or birth,
or, for that matter, how pure the air is that you're going to breathe and how safe is the water that you're going to drink. Accountability is what they are looking to eliminate, because the Republican mindset, backed by the actual capitalistic society, or as Eric always calls them, the a la cartes, will basically have you voting against your interests. You got to understand the strategy of the chess match.
Right. Now, and let me ask you this question, too. This is for me and the people. Why is every candidate dropping out, leaning towards Joe Biden? Why is that?
Well, because all of those candidates, so look, all of those candidates were part of the establishment. I say it like this. If the tree is rotten at the root, right? So the root of the tree is rotten. Every fruit that tree bears is going to be rotten, right? So trace the root. Look at every single one of those candidates and look at where they got their money from. So when, Bernie was saying, hey, look at how many billionaires this one's getting money from. Look at who the donors are here. Look at who the donors are there. All of these people are being guided by that money. Our government is being guided by corporate interests because of corporate money. The Congress and the Senate is outnumbered by lobbyists by 4-1.
Yes.
Those lobbyists down there, I'm telling you, those lobbyists down there in Trenton are writing the policy for the companies that they represent, and then literally just handing that written policy over to the congressman or woman or the senator, and then they're voting on it. That's what's happening. That's how our government is currently functioning. And so when you look at Beto O'Rourke, or you looked at Kamala Harris, or Cory Booker, or just to go down the list of them, look at Amy Klobuchar, and even Liz, get out of the race. But Elizabeth Warren is now even saying that she's going to take money from PACs now. So they're all in it. I mean, it is one big murky thing. Call it go.
Hey guys, Darren here. How's everybody doing?
D. Martin, what's up?
Doing good.
Hey, listen, I agree with all you guys. Nothing out of the ordinary happened last night. I don't know why people are some people are shocked. Some people are celebrating. It's clear. Here's the way I look at it. Each one of those people running for office have one thing in common. They are all white. They are all stale. They are all pale. And they are all rich or well off. And it doesn't help us as black people either way. We give away our vote for free, and we don't demand anything in return that's going to help or do anything to assist us in our condition. So
preach that, brother. Preach that.
But you saw the establishment at its best over the last days, where Klobuchar, like Eric said, they all part of the establishment. Klobuchar and all of them, and even O'Rourke comes in. He dropped out months ago, and even they are all being fed by the Democratic Party, so they're told what to do. So nothing surprising happened last night at all. It was all what was expected to happen. Everybody's piling on Bernie. This is all against Bernie.
No, Darren, I want to correct you. Darren, I need to correct you because we need to stay focused. It's not against Bernie. It's against us. It's against us. It's against folks who dare to say that they want to be free, who dare to say that they don't want to take this anymore, who dare to say that they deserve better. It's against all of us. So this movement, I'm saying that Bernie Sanders is just an extension of the poor people's campaign. That's what we're all involved in. And so they want you to look at Bernie. They want you to say, oh, it's that crazy guy. It's this guy who's a communist. It's a guy who's a socialist. And I'm saying, no. Let's just slow down. So in this respect, Shavar Jeffries, I will not shout, and I'll say this. Let's overlay what Bernie is talking about with what Martin talked about, and let's see what boxes we're checking. And then let's look at Biden and let's see how closely aligned he is to what Martin fought and was murdered for. And then I'll ask you, why are you aligned with a failed party? A party that has subjugated us as foundational Black Americans. A party that supports subjugating and keeping in bondage 99%, while pushing the wealth up to the 1% or the 1/10 of the 1%. Why do you support that? And why do you ask me to be calm? That's what I'd like to know.
And you know why? See, and if I could add to what Brother Dawson was saying, why are you suffering from Stockholm Syndrome? Why are you sympathizing with those who are oppressing you? How about that?
And then you know what? And then here's a piece of what you just said. And then Sydney, I want you to chime in. But here's a piece of what you said, because remember when I talked to you about these socially transmitted diseases? So my brother has that disease.
I love that.
My brother has that disease, and now he's trying to infect me. That's what he's trying to do. So he's got that disease, and he's trying to infect me. Listen, I'm inoculated. I can't be infected. I'm all right.
Well, we already went through 2.5 years of a socially transmitted disease called Trumpism. Yeah, but I love that. Hey, listen, I don't even take my STD as Trumpism, because I got locally stuff here that don't even get near Trump yet. We got to get traffic down here, right? But, I never heard Irvington, man, and let me tell you something. Listen, we got STDs to the highest level. I don't think it's a cure, but you know what? One of the things we got to realize that how powerful we are. We keep forgetting how powerful we are. You know, if you look at what happened to this young lady in Target the other day, I don't know if you guys read what happened to her in Target with her product. I didn't hear about that. No. Oh, she's a black woman that has a product in Target, and white folks are writing about it, telling her. Yeah, she's got candles. Yeah, she was. Well, anyway, she just sold out. She did very well because we came together and we said, okay, you're not going to do this to her. And she just gave Target some good profit lines at the bottom right now, right? But we say over and over again, we can prove how powerful we are if we do what we're supposed to do when we come together. But sometimes we forget and we get lost and we divide ourselves. When they give us some different things to divide, like they said this guy saved the Democratic Party. What's his name? The black guy from South Carolina. They said that he came off of Biden and he just saved. Yeah, he just saved. Crying. His name is Crying Fish Fry Clyburn. Wow. Yeah, okay, look. I will say one thing. I go to Bethlehem in Morristown, New Jersey. And 5 years ago, Congressman Clyburn came to our church and delivered a incredible speech and sermon. And I mean, and if he has that much power, where he actually brought back to life Joe Biden's campaign, imagine what that power could have did if he had done something effective for our community, or if he had that level of influence with our congressman in New Jersey about our water system, about our polluted air, and about our botched attempts of bringing Amazon and jobs to New Jersey.
Right, I agree. So listen, speaking of New Jersey, there's some news going over in. So anyway, let me end this segment about the presidential campaign, guys. Stay tuned. The progressives, they're not going anywhere. There's a lot of fight left, and like I said to you, we're fighting at the top of the ticket, and we're fighting at these down ballot races as well. So get in the fight, get involved. The Poor People's Campaign marches forward. Darren, you sent me something that's going on in Jersey City. You want to say what that is and then elaborate on
Yeah. So what's happening in Jersey City is a few things. So Mayor Steve Phillip did a horrible job. He's trying to do some damage control. So he did a horrible job with the whole Jewish market shooting, or whatever they want to call that store. That was really something else. He didn't do good with that. We're trying to make a black woman resign. He didn't think the black community was going to stand up, so he got knocked down from that. The schools in Jersey City are underfunded, big time, and he keeps claiming that the people don't want to work with him. That's part of the leadership for the school system. But keep in mind, his friend, Sudan Thomas, who is now dealing with some legal stuff, was the president until December of last year. But he didn't start saying that they wasn't working with him until after Sudan was gone. He's saying that the people there now need to show some leadership, and all of this is going on while he's ready for re-election. Him and the city council go running for re-election next year. So what he did last week was him and Councilman Michael Young, who's usually against anything Phillip does, but that they all stick together when they want to line their pockets and do some things. They did a presentation showing how Jersey City will help to fund the public schools in Jersey City. So it was frowned upon immediately because, one, Phillip didn't talk to anybody from the school board, from the superintendent on down, to tell them that they had some kind of plan they had was going to put in place, share with them beforehand, etc. He just rolled it out of the school. There's a PR stunt. Well, now people started looking at the fuzzy math of the numbers he presented, and the fuzzy math is showing that the schools will be underfunded under his plan by some millions of dollars. But see, Phillip has always thought that he was the smartest person in the room. He always thinks that he can throw things out there and he put it on display and say Jersey City is the Mecca and we welcome everybody here. So people are starting to pay attention, and his ex-friend, who was the school board president, who's now facing some indictment situations for playing with some money, is the one that put the article out stating that this math doesn't even make sense. So I haven't a chance to crunch the numbers. I'll be crunching the numbers myself today. Yeah. But this is all a PR stunt on folks' part, Eric. That's what it is. He's trying to look good in front of the people, and he doesn't want to say the tax is going to have to be raised. Everybody knows, and I heard you guys talking about taxes earlier, if a politician ever tells you, I'm not going to raise your taxes, it's a lie. I'm going to stabilize it. It's a lie. That is the largest amount of revenue they get, so taxes will never stop going up, especially in New Jersey.
Yeah. So here's my question. Here's my question for you, Darren. And thanks for sharing that information. What's the council in Jersey City saying about this?
Well, good question, Eric.
Well, wait a minute. Let me clarify my question. What are the council members who aren't paid and bought and paid for by Phillip? What are those other ones saying about this? I mean, I know the ones that he paid and bought for. Oh, they all? He bought them all? He's like Uncle Mike?
They all paid. You got, like most places, big cities, you have 9 council people. The one who did the presentation with him, Michael Young, who's Indian, Asian, he used to fight against Phillip all the time, but now I guess they found some common ground somewhere. It's probably green. It got some numbers on it. So they found some common ground somewhere. And one other councilman from downtown, James Solomon, would once in a while go against something Phillip would say, but lately he's been, so they're not doing anything. They're not, including Pastor Joyce Waterman, who is the council president. They're not saying a word. Nothing. Nada.
Wow. Hey, Darren, you got 9 council people and 10 of them are on his side. So that's
that fuzzy math.
So somebody said, wow, you know that.
Well, I can say this is Darren, maybe you should actually get ready to run for council, because when you're dealing with people who are supporting fuzzy math And you mean to tell me they just rubber stamp this entire proposal, knowing that it's wrong? No. It's time for new leadership.
Well, but you know what? But here's the challenge, and I'll tell you, I sense the fatigue of the people who are fighting, because and Kevin Jenkins always talked about this. You're fighting the folks on the outside, but then you got to contend with the barbarians inside the gate. And so you get a person who sits down with you and they tell you, because I could name a dozen of them right now who sat down with me and said how they wanted help, or sat with my father and talked about how they wanted help to be able to get elected, so that they could tear down the system. We could talk about the guy in Newark, 920 Broad Street, who gave that powerful speech about how he would never capitulate, how he would never be on the side of those folks, right? And he stood there in 2014 on the steps of City Hall saying that his next stop was up at the county to tear the system down. And now you see him hugged up with them all. So folks become fatigued because there's a history of disingenuous folk, right? And so trying to figure people out before the election, because they all, come with a song and a dance. They're all, wolves in sheep's clothing, and then sitting there and trying to unpack it to figure it out, it becomes tiresome. It's just a constant battle. And look, and we see it here. We see all those folks who decide they're going to run for the Board of Education, or run for council seats, or run for mayoral seats. And then after the election's over, all the ideas that they said they had about improving the community, all of the compassion that they said they were showing for people, they just disappear. They're just gone. And you say, wait a minute, where are you now? Where are you? And they're gone until the next election cycle, and then like little sleazy. It's disgusting. They slither back. And then all of a sudden you see them start posting stuff, and if you look long enough, you go, oh yes, this person going to run for something, because they start posting again on Facebook. Or they're commenting about this thing, so they must be up to something. And it's just, it is vile to watch. Which is why I'm committed every day to exposing you guys. Every single day. When I see you lift your ugly head up, I'm going to pop you down like the, what do you call it? The whack-a-mole?
Whack-a-mole.
Like a whack-a-mole. That's right.
Oh, Jesus, give me strength.
I say that every day, man. I say it every day. It's horrible. It is horrible. Yeah. But, on the local level, guys, we have work to do, because I'm trust and believe they're going to start rearing their ugly heads. Election cycle is right around the corner. You're going to start seeing people.
Eric, I want to give an announcement, let people know about a meeting that's going on tonight if folks are making it in Newark. Tonight there's a meeting at Arts High School, 550 Martin Luther King Boulevard, and the topic is about teaching our children. This is probably going to go into tomorrow's show. Teaching our children about LGBTQ history, and I got some calls from some little parents last week that were up in arms that this is being shoved down their kids' throats. And I told the few of them, I said, listen, the Jewish community already told the commissioner and the governor, we're not teaching our kids that. But see, black people are not organized, and that's part of the problem. Now, I'm going to attend the meeting tonight to help the parents out in Newark, but my school district where I live at in Union already knows. I told the superintendent, you're not going to shove anything down my daughter and son. So I don't mind anybody's history being taught, but when you start teaching Black African-American history the way you should with the Abbasid Commission, which by incidentally just got some more money put into that program, when that curriculum comes and you start doing that on a regular basis, then you can talk to me. But here's the problem, and I'm going to be quiet. The problem is they're telling parents that you can't refuse or opt out, but if they're teaching kids something that's subjective and suggestive and something that violates their religious that right. That meeting is tonight at 6 o'clock at on 550 Martin Luther King Boulevard in Newark, talking about LGBTQ curriculum in New Jersey.
Now here's what I'll say about this, right? And I get it, but there are LGBTQ folk, and I agree with you, Darren. What I'm gonna say about this is this: there needs to be a discussion about it. There needs to be we need to figure it out. But what I find to be disturbing is this, exactly what you said, Darren, that nobody is sitting and talking about the curriculum for foundational Black Americans. Nobody's talking about tearing up all of these books that have been miseducating Black and white folk alike about the true brutality
victory of the South
of this country, right? Nobody's been talking about that. So you pick and choose the curriculum that you want to add, subtract, or adjust. I'm saying exactly what you're saying, Darren. Let's evaluate all of the curriculum.
Exactly.
Right?
Correct.
And unless you're gonna do that, then don't do anything. But the reason it's being done is you have a constituency, right? You have a group of people who are making enough noise. They have enough political power, right? That they're driving this. So understand it. So so here's all right.
Hold up. See, the thing that kills me with what you're saying is this: bringing the LGQ community into the school systems is a political stunt. Because if they really had the power to do something, Black history wouldn't be every day rather than just February. If they really had the power to make change, our second grader reading level would be much higher than what it is. If they really wanted to change something to better the community, we wouldn't have these failing school systems.
Right. That's the point that I was just getting ready to make. I mean, when you look at it, you see if you have political power, you see how you can bring about transformative change. Because that's what they're looking to do now, right? Through what? Through education, right? So now I say to you again, all of these Black faces on the boards of education in these Black communities, why aren't they fighting for curriculum for our kids? All these Black mayors, why aren't they fighting to elect?
Hey guys, and you know, it's first of all, I mean, everybody knows I shoot where it's at. I'm not going to no damn meeting like that in the first place. So let's do that. The thing about it, right? The first thing about it is, I hate the word that Darren put on the end of it, which is where they put his history. I don't even know there's no damn history involved. But, you know, we're talking about, you know what I mean? I got some bull crap, and you know, it's horrible. If I got to the meeting, they might have to throw me out. But here it is. We got kids who need to work. They need to learn how to learn a trade, right? They need to know what's getting ready to come. What's getting ready to come is not no LBGT whatever program. That's not what's getting ready to come. What's getting ready to come is that people are not going to have any place to live if you don't make money, if you don't learn a trade, right? So we need to be educating kids on that and not teaching kids about something that...
Well, so here's what I'm going to say, Sid. But
because all that is it's more of a pop news political stunt than is actual a question of using or utilizing power to progress the people. That's all it is.
But I'm disagreeing with you on this. I think that if I've done the organizing, if I'm a part of an LGBTQ movement, and I've done the organizing, we've seized political and economic power to be able to effectuate policy change, right? Then it's not a political stunt, it's what we're doing. And what I'm saying to you, Sid, is that on the front that you're talking about in terms of preparing our kids for these jobs that are going to be replaced through artificial intelligence, that there is not an equal movement, right, that has political and economic power to be able to effectuate policy changes. And then in terms of black folks, like Ayanna Pressley says, we have black faces with no black voices, so we don't have economic and political power to effectuate change. So nothing changes for us because those folks are not, they have no power. We see. So this meeting that's going to happen when this, and don't come, and I'm saying, when I say this, I mean it respectfully. Don't complain. Do something. So those folks, and look at what they did. Just examine what they did in order to get to where they are right now. Look at how they organized. Look at the work that they put in to be able to pressure government to move in this direction. And I'm saying, so what are we doing? All we're doing is driving our children into these factories of death. We're not organizing. We're not looking to fight and seize economic and political power. And what does Malcolm say? He says, listen, if you're not willing to fight for it, you don't deserve it.
There you go. There you go. And one thing that we should do, now that we know that they have that platform, we should all go there and just change the narrative. Let's now bring up the situation of you're going to use all this influence and power to change the dress code? Really? Why don't you use this power to improve education? Use this power to get more funding. Use this power to get more study time and reading time.
I don't even want to go, but I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole. So instead of us organizing and building our own power base, what we now want to do is watch somebody else who builds a power base, and then we want to tell them what they should now do.
There you go.
No, I don't want to do that.
Isn't that what Obama's doing with Bloomberg? I mean, come on.
No, what I'm saying is this: build our own. Stop looking at what somebody else is doing and then complaining about it. See, we wait until somebody else puts their money in, somebody else builds their thing, and then we complain that they're not using it for us.
Mm-hmm.
No, build our own thing and then use it for us.
See, Eric is absolutely correct. And see, the problem is because we are not organized as a people. That's the reason why we even did that State of the Black Community forum last week in Jersey City. And then we're going to be meeting with 100 men of black men in the community. We're going to start organizing, and we'll take the show on the road for the other places that call if they're really serious. But until we get on everybody else's cause. So, listen, I ain't got nothing against the immigrants. I got some of my family, etc. But when their cause is going, here come the black people. We all together, we get hurt and we help them out. With DACA and all that stuff, we did that. When LGBTQ community, I got some of my family, so I'm not discriminating against them. But they organized. So once they got their thing going, here we come. We helping out. When are we going to address our black conditions? When are we going to address our own and organize our own and build our own? Eric is absolutely correct. That's my concern.
Yeah, I mean, because what'll happen is this, Darren, is you'll hold the meeting, right, like the one you held. Black folk won't show up at your meeting, but then want to go and complain about those people who have a meeting and are organized about doing something. It's like, well, no, just go to that meeting over there, get organized with them about those issues that impact your life, and then effectuate change through policies. But no, they don't want to do that. They'd rather go and be rebel rousers at this meeting over here. And then tell those people who are raising money how to spend that money to help their community. Stop it. But that's what I said about, but that's my whole thing about folks who say, well, what did this 78-year-old white guy who was the mayor of Vermont, the congressman in Vermont, and the senator in Vermont, what does he do for black people in Newark? I'm like, wait a minute. You elected a black mayor. What's he doing for you? You elected black council people. What are they doing for you? You elected a black U.S. senator. What did he do for you?
He do for you.
Right? But you don't. But no. I don't want to talk about that because see, that's personal responsibility. I want to talk about what this guy.
Chicken dinner. Yeah. Yes, he came to your church for the chicken dinner, and every time it's election time, he comes and knocks on your grandfather's door.
We got to stop that. We have to stop that. And listen, who's holding Cory? Look, I want to know this. Who's holding Cory Booker accountable for his lies? I mean,
that would be me.
I haven't heard
Wow.
And I'm going to say this because he put it out there, right? And when he put it out there, it now becomes public. Have you heard anything about his relationship with Rosario Dawson anymore? See, and I gotta talk about this. I gotta talk about this for a second.
They said she came out of the closet, Eric. They claim she came out of the closet and said she's gay.
She did.
Right. So here's the thing for me, and I want you guys to understand this. This is the character of this guy. He will use anybody and anything he can to advance his personal agenda. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He made up a character, T-Bone. He used I forgot the woman who was in the building that he said he lived in, but he used her and made fun of her.
Rick Towers.
Right. He made fun of her when he went to these affluent fundraising meetings and talked about her being toothless. He used her. Then when he ran for president, he used Newark as, you know, and talked about
as his platform of being the manager of a large city.
Right. Talk about poor black people and how, you know, he was the mayor of. Meanwhile, we were here dealing with this water crisis, and he didn't open his goddamn mouth about that.
Talk about it. Exactly.
What are we talking about? And then he used this woman, got her. I don't know how he got her. You know, to say that she was in a relationship with him. But he used her too. He used Gayle King. He used Oprah. He used anybody he can. Listen, he used Ivanka Trump. He used Betsy DeVos. He used Donald Trump. He used them all. He's a user.
Right. But yet when Donald Trump started that bull crap with that foreign country and withholding their aid, what did he say? Not a word.
Not a word.
Nothing.
Well, you know why he didn't say anything? Listen, at the end of the day,
when everybody was saying how bad the water was in Newark to the point where it was causing permanent brain damage, what did he say?
Well, but listen, you got to understand this. Donald Trump has receipts on Corey, right? The Kushners have receipts on Corey. Baraka has receipts on Corey. Chris Christie has receipts on Corey. All these people, Corey is compromised. All of them have receipts on him. So he's not going to say anything. Not going to open his mouth. Not going to open his mouth about anything.
True. So he's compromised, and now that he's compromised as a leader, he's ineffective because he's not going to do anything for the people. He's going to do everything now for everyone else because he has now become their puppet.
No, he has become. He entered the gate that way.
Wow. Ouch. Ooh, come on. You said you call a headshot there. What happened? What happened to the headshot? Come on, baby. Stick and move.
Listen, I told you, whack-a-mole. Bam. You know what? Starting on tomorrow's show, I'm going to have my mallet. I'm going to bring my mallet on. Bam!
But that is true. And what we need to do is now continue to inform and enlighten. What we need to do is to gain more momentum in terms of the show, its platform, and its design to actually give people a chance at an informed vote for their leaders. What we need to do is continue this movement, continue its growth, so that we can do some positive things to make positive changes or correct changes in our society, not just in the Senate as I'm running for, in the Congress as you're running for, but also in our school districts, also in our local municipalities. And when we do that, we change the world.
Yeah.
We need to keep this going.
So listen, think about the congressional run again, guys. I want to let you know that I'm having my kickoff on the 14th of March. It's going to be at DLV Lounge, 300 Bloomfield Avenue in Montclair. Please stop through. It'll be from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. You know, folks have been calling me. They're interested in coming and, you know, just having a good time, you know, do a little bit of talking. And, you know, somebody called me yesterday and said, "Oh, what's your platform?" I said, "My platform is to take a stick of dynamite and blow it up."
And
my platform. Listen.
And take around Congress with a match.
Yeah, that's right. Like a stick of dynamite in one hand and a match in the other. That's it. That's my platform.
There it is. You're either going to work or you're going to blow up. All right.
Hey, listen. That's my platform. Because unless we blow it up, and you know what? And now you see it. You saw it on full display last night, right? In terms of the establishment. So unless you blow it up, it has tentacles everywhere. And when it feels threatened, you see what it did? You see how it just grows and it's able to pull resources from every place? That's what it does. And so you have to blow the entire thing up. You have to blow it up. I can sit and talk, like I said, I can sit and talk to you about what I'd like to see, but none of it will come to fruition until we blow it up. Because all of the people who are down there right now, who are in Washington, are actively working against your best interest. All of them. That's fact.
Correct. That's right.
That's fact. So listen, guys. I don't know if we covered anything. If we covered everything that we want to. I know there was some pop news that Diane had sent me. I don't remember what it was, so I can't. And I can't locate it. So.
Hey, quick question. Did anybody see the video that's circulating about the city council meeting that happened? It looked like it was in Michigan, and it appears that the city council, the city, to give them answers to a lot of issues about water, this, that, etc. And a lawyer was there representing his client, and him and a council person got into a heated argument. And the lawyer walked up on the dais and was nose to nose with the city council guy. Oh man, I saw that circulate this morning. I guess we can talk about it tomorrow once we pull it up.
Wait a minute. What town was this in, Darren?
I believe it was Michigan.
Oh wow, no.
See, here's my sense. If that had been the cause of that water damage in Flint, Michigan, if it was a group of people who were of color, they would have been arrested and doing jail time by now.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't tell me that you are not causing genocide and brain damage of a group of people of color, and nobody's prosecuting you?
Black people. Call it go.
Hey, what's going on, Eric? I know you don't like to toot your own horn, but I'm going to do it for you. I call Eric all the time and tell him he got to toot his own horn. And today is a great show, and I just appreciate your level of maturity on all of these topics. And that's what it is, man. We all have to grow politically mature, especially in these days and times.
Yeah.
So you can't go around and think that you're not going to, you know what I mean? They throw the word taxes out there, everybody going to a selfish mode. No, they got us thinking about taxes while these jokers are not paying any taxes. You should have been thinking about taxes when this guy came to town talking about he wanted to give him $30 billion to build a facility. No, that was going to raise your tax. You know, so, but, no, it's just that, you know, especially, let me just say this about these water crises, and yeah, we all need to get pitfalls because of this infrastructure that our government has divested in, and now it shows our infrastructure is so dangerous. You can't drive your car down the street without bending the rim. You can't open up your faucet without poison coming in. You can't go out your door and breathe because you're breathing in poison. So it's all this stuff is all related, and it's the divestment in us. Well, they taking our money and not investing it back in us to give it to people who sitting on a boatload of money that they can fund their own stadium. But no, they'll take your money, your tax dollars, and build the stadium. And then you want to know something, they have you think, oh, it's going to raise taxes. No, that money you just gave that joker to build a stadium is going to raise your taxes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you want health care, oh, no, that's going to raise your taxes. No, I'll keep talking about economic power, brother. Keep talking about political power. It's sinking in. I think it's sinking in.
I know it is.
That's
You know what?
me.
And so I'm kind of going back and forth, but not. And I know he's probably watching the show. And so because he put this up, I got to comment again. So my brother Shavar Jeffries put something else up, which is just maximum sophisticated confusion.
AKA BS.
Right. So here's what
pollution. Fertilizer.
Here's what he said. And I just, my thumbs just can't do all this typing. So he says Bernie Sanders claims to be fighting for working families against the establishment and so-called corporate Democrats, yet he loses handily in states with the lowest median household income and does much better in wealthier states. So this is what I want to say about that. So I'm going to go back to Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King fought for poor people, right? But the money that he got to travel across the country came from Harry Belafonte, came from Aretha Franklin, came from Sammy Davis Jr., came from those people. It didn't come from those poor people. It came from these other folks. Come on, Shavar, do better than that. You're not batting 1,000 this time, man. You're putting out garbage. So let's talk about it. Let's have the real conversation. Don't put this nonsense out. But this is the craziness that people who have some influence in the community, that have garnered trust from people in the community, they throw these kinds of things out there. But of course, he's going to get support from those folks. But let's understand the deep conditioning in the poor community that always has us voting against our interests. That's why he's not getting the support.
Eric, let me just say this about the miseducated Negro and the real fight we face and challenges we face today. These corporatists and is just an expert at making money. That's all a corporatist is the real battle is the corporatist against the environmentalist. It's no longer the Democrat Republican line. It's if you want to survive out here from your basic earnings to surviving on this planet, we have to put in check a mindset who will, like Buttigieg, suspend his campaign and the night before go on the side of an opponent. This just didn't happen by happenstance. These jokers are lining up to defeat us who want to just survive out here. And we have to make up our mind if we want to survive.
Well, my brother, if I could, there are two things that we need to actually do. One, let's start now redeveloping or reimagining our own economic power. What I mean is this. First and foremost, our black businesses, some of you need to step your game up. There is no level of excellence in your shop and what you're doing. You're selling more of an attitude than a service or product. And the product and service has to reach the level of the attitude and the money that you're anticipating. The second thing is this. We need to once again reinvest in the black community. In every community, they recycle their money within that community 10 times before it goes out.
Listen.
In the black community, it only recycles 3 times.
But here's we have to, I think it's important for us to always understand the underlying condition. So on the surface, all of the things that you're saying are fine, right? But listen, and it's great for you to tell me if you didn't know I was a quadriplegic and you said, hey, listen, it's healthy to go walking a mile every day. Yeah, it's healthy to do that, but if I'm a quadriplegic, I can't do that, right? So if you're ignoring the underlying condition, right? So look at where I am, and so when we go back and talk about the socially transmitted diseases that have permeated our community, There are reasons, there are underlying reasons for some of these things that are happening. And so until you deal with that, so I'm not saying to you that, yeah, we should, this, you know, in a utopia, it should be this for sure. But they're actively working. So even in the threads that I'm reading, you know, you have people who have prominence and influence in our community who are constantly selling garbage. And so we're battling, you know, these barbarians within the gate. You have low information
That's why
voters.
we need to step up our product.
I'm sorry.
Because they're selling garbage.
Yeah, look. Like I said, so I'll go back and I had this conversation yesterday about a young man who I was trying to do work with and the level of work that he had given back to me, but I got to look at where he is. He came through, you know, this school system that we continuously talk about churning out mediocrity, right? So now, if I'm gonna talk to him, I can't just say to him, "Step your game up." I gotta recognize that the community failed him for the entire time that he was in that institution, right? And then we have to do some work re-engineering him. So it's not just looking at him and saying, "Oh, step your game up." I gotta look at the underlying condition that he's in now. And then I got to repair that. Then I got to bring him up to this level. So there's work to be done. So we have to step our game up. First thing we have to do is tie a tourniquet, right? Because we've got to recognize that school is still turning out kids. And so if we're going to look at him, we got to say, well, the ones that are in there right now are going to be just like him if we don't step our game up.
So we have to burn the candle on both ends.
No, we got to blow it up.
That's why that meeting... Hey guys, that's why that meeting in Jersey City is crazy. Okay, put it that way. That's why that meeting in Jersey City is crazy, because that's not what we need right now. That's not what we need right now. I think that just adds to the... No. See, I agree with you. That meeting is smoke and mirrors. We're not addressing the true issues to give people a better quality of life. We're addressing a pop culture issue that gives a certain group of people, respectability.
The meeting in Newark, guys. Not the meeting in Jersey City. You mean the meeting in Newark?
Right.
Let me just say something about that, man. There are people who are unrecognized throughout history that have done stellar work in the civil rights movement and other movements that are from the gay community. I don't know where all these letters come from, but I'm just going to say that their history needs to be told correctly, just like the African American history needs to be told. Right. So now, if you're going to give special exceptions from somebody whose oral history has been left out of every other portion of white history, that's all you're saying, that you want to put an asterisk on other people's history. No, let's blow up the system, like Eric said, and tell history the way it needs to be told, not some glorified version of the hunter killing the lion. Sooner or later, the lion got the other story. And this is what we're talking about. So I'm not going to marginalize the gay community in the way that it's smoke and mirrors. No, like Eric said, their politics got it to this point. So we have to recognize our political power and say, no, okay, now you're going to do this, you're going to have to tell history the way it's supposed to be told. Now, I mean, be careful how you marginalize people because you're not getting what you want. Careful.
No.
I'm going to sit back and listen.
Well, it's not a question of marginalizing people because we're not getting what we want. What the statement is that, you know, they are exploiting other people and marginalizing our issue. No,
I don't see it.
Well, I don't see it that way. Well, here's the thing. The smoke and mirror is this. Maybe I can help clear it up. The smoke and mirror is this. If I can get you to focus on the LBGQ community and their issues, then I've got you not thinking about you, your family, and your issues. If I get you to focus on, making a right or a group of people feel comfortable, then you are no longer focused on the progress of the school district's ability or inability to help assist your child to be their better selves. If I can get you to focus the smoke and mirrors on this one point, you don't see me picking your pocket over here. That's what I'm saying.
The art of politics. The art of politics.
Correct. Correct.
The art of politics. The sport of politics is the art of politics is to divide. The sport of politics is to have the numbers on your side. You get answers to a problem that's not being dealt with in whole. You said it eloquently. And I was listening how you continue to divide people on what needs to happen. What needs to happen is people need to be educated and learn how to think critically and stop being divided. Yeah. And I'm not going to take your political way of solving the problem, and the problem still exists because everything is not being dealt with in whole. It's only being dealt with in part, which is going to marginalize. It's going to end up. Some people are going to end up being marginalized.
Right.
Yes, if I make sense.
Listen.
Well,
We're at 12 o'clock. We're at 12 o'clock. We got a caller. Caller, please make it very quick.
Thanks for calling.
Caller, go very quickly. Caller? All right. We're out. Listen, thank you for tuning in, guys. Tune in tomorrow. We'll update you on what's going on in Jersey City. We'll keep giving you information about what's going on. I can't wait to get to my television and look at the headlines to see about this Mike Bloomberg stuff, man. But it's all going to be fun.
The Eric prediction. Look, Eric, since you've got that skill of predicting stuff, there's a $75 million lottery happening.
I'm not going to give any numbers out. We're out.
All right.